Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success and what they have learnt along the way. Hello and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. Today I have the absolute delight of introducing you to Karen McDermott, who is the founder of Serenity Press, MMH Press, KMD Books, and the Everything Publishing Academy. So obviously we're going to be talking about publishing and getting your voice out, your word out, your passion out to the world. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, a multi-genre author. She's got over 40 books. She's also a mentor, a writer at Forbes and Brains magazine. She's been a TEDx speaker twice, and she's also the proud mum of 6. She's also an advanced law of attraction practitioner who teaches people how to attract anything they want, who doesn't want that, into their lives, and writes about her success principles as KP Weaver. She's got awesome annual retreats, and these are sought after events. We're going to find out about them. How does she get featured famous guests and she also hosts them in an Irish castle. So I definitely want to go to one of those. Welcome to the program, Karen.
Thank you, Annie. It's always funny hearing about yourself through somebody else's. It's like you write these bios and then you hear them being read to you. Amazing.
I go, oh yeah, I get into it as I'm reading it going, you're a pretty awesome chick.
You deliver it so well.
I'm loving it. Who doesn't want to have an annual retreat in an Irish castle? That just sounds so fun. Is that in the UK where you are, or is that somewhere in the world?
Oh, it's over in Ireland. So we have a house about 1 kilometre from the castle, so I kind of grew up around there. My parents are there. I bring my kids over. They hang out with my parents, and I go and host. We go for 5 weeks, and for 5 days, I hang out in the castle with amazing authors. And of course, this was pre-COVID, but we were to be there now actually. But it's our next one is in June 2022. So yay.
Let's hope we can all get out of Australia where we are having our conversations. For those listening in, I have got an Aussie on the line today, which is just so exciting. We're at opposite sides of the country, but we're all excited about just getting active post-COVID, actually being able to go to events, to see each other. And Karen and I have just recently met up on the Lady Americas Summit, and it's just so great to be hearing about what different people are doing around our country and also around the globe. And I know Kez Wickham St George has also been on my program before, and she's on in some of your publishing works as well. I know you've been a publisher of her books through MMH Press because I bought them through you.
She's amazing. I love Kez, and she just lives up the road. So me and her have coffee. She comes into my radio show every Monday and does a book review. She is amazing.
How good is that? So let's have a little talk about this. How does a mum of 6 navigate an incredible career that I've just outlined in your bio to actually, write 40 books yourself, then be able to set up these multiple publishing companies? And also then the next question I'm going to ask you is, why do you have different companies for different purposes? So I've got so much to ask you today. Let's just start with, how do you do it all?
Well, this is the golden question, and one that I try to answer as I don't overthink things, Annie. I am always in a state of flow. I have ebbs and flows, and I understand, as you mentioned, I've studied the law of attraction, so I know how to make things happen. I'm also a practitioner with that. So what I did was 10 years ago now it would have been, I wrote my first novel in 2010, and then I published it in 2012. So I would have been going through the publishing process in 2011, and it wasn't the best experience in the world, but it ended up being a catalyst. And I have a quote at the beginning of that said, "From every negative situation is the potential for a positive outcome." So I realized that I had learned so much about publishing. So I call myself an accidental publisher, because that book was a catalyst into me becoming a publisher, because I happened to do a bit of research around the company in the US who published my book, and discovered that their print and distribution channel had opened up an office in Australia that very month. So I was like, okay, universe, I'm hearing these signs. Let's see what happens. And then I made a sacred promise to myself and to the world that if I got accepted as a publisher, that I would show up and help stories get out into the world. So I was an author first before I was a publisher. And I think that's one of the unique things about me, is that I go on the journey. It's not about having the book in your hands. It's about going on the journey, because I ended up with a book in my hands and knew nothing to do. I didn't know what to do with it. And I do appreciate you're not supposed to know everything at that time, but you do need to have the knowledge that sets the ball in motion for growth, because a book is an amazing catalyst in your career or even in your life. Like The Visitor that I published back then has, and its 10th anniversary next year. That book has brought me on a life's journey, and I could credit it to that, because if I hadn't have, no, when I decided to write that book, it was totally irrational of me, as are many things in life, you know, but I knew I needed to do it. Like, I had just had my 4th child, and as she was 4 weeks old, and as I was breastfeeding her with one hand, I was typing out a novel with the other. And I was not, I done NaNoWriMo, which is novel writing month. So I done 1,667 words a day for a month. But get this, I'm not great at English. I was never really great at English at school. But this story just had to be told. And so it came from a personal experience that was, I had a message and an epiphany to share with the world. And that book just has, it reaches people every now and again and changes their lives, which is amazing.
Oh, it's so amazing. And I just totally love the way you've shared that journey, because I'm on that journey as well. And I know that so many of other people that I've had on this program, or people that I've coached, are having that experience of, you've got a book in you, you're then so focused on, writing it, but you don't actually know all the mechanics of it. And then even when you do it, you don't know, well, what happens next? How does that whole world work? And so this is really interesting to have this conversation, because when my biography was written a couple of years ago, Becoming Annie, then that was written obviously by someone else, another author, and then it goes into their publishing system. But I didn't actually know, even when I was getting this book out, what the process was and where it actually ends up and how it all works. And then now I'm actually going through that journey a bit late. I'm obviously 54. I didn't do it at 40, but I wrote this little mini book because I had 2 sets of twins. So I wrote this little book called Double Trouble, Double Treat, when the twins were babies, a bit like your breastfeeding story, but not quite as grand. Mind you, I did have 4 and 26 months, so it was a bit mental.
Wow. 2 sets of twins, like, just for a moment, I can't even begin to imagine. Goodness me.
Years later, I'm like, right, I'm writing my twin book. So I'm all guns blazing at the moment. And I'm having those same conversations that, right, when I actually write this in my own steam, that's right. How do you choose a publisher? Do you self-publish? What is the process? And there's so many aspects of, whether we're talking about books here or publishing or any other aspect that you get into that's just a little bit removed from your comfort zone or anything you've ever done before. You suddenly reveal this whole world out there of unknowns, and it makes you make those decisions of, should I venture in? Should I do it myself? Or should I actually just leave it to the experts? Because there's a lot, there's a lot involved there, right?
Yeah, well, every single book needs the author behind it. But for me, I chose because I didn't have the skill set, and I didn't realize until I went on the journey that I was really passionate about it and just was like a sponge. And I suppose, and I really was intrigued by it and fascinated by all the facets of publishing, and I wanted to learn. And if I have that in me, that fire in me for more knowledge, I will absorb in 1 year what people would absorb in 20 years of a course. You know what I mean? I just want to know everything. But I appreciate that, but I always also appreciate the journey of it's a step-by-step journey, and you're going to face challenges and all of those kinds of things. But I just have, like, I've been on that journey now for 10 years. I have such a desire to have stories get told, because when stories connect with a reader, they will, ignite something within them, help them heal, give them hope. Even a children's book with a parent sitting on their knee, that moment of connection is a memory that will stick with them for a lifetime. Books are important, and that's why, and even the journey of an author is very important, because it's a self-development journey. You don't understand when you go whenever you write your first, everybody needs to just give themselves a break whenever they set the intention to write a book. They overthink it, creates all sorts of blocks and things like that. Whereas your first draft is your first draft. You get out what's in there, you get it out. And then then you can mold it into the perfect book that's going to go out on. It'll be a different version of, but sometimes you have to write things out to move through, and it doesn't make the final book, and that's totally fine. But for nonfiction writers, I always say focus on your framework. Get your framework down and write to that. If you're writing a memoir, have a timeline and have the events that, because there's so much that can happen in anyone's lifetime. But what do you want to talk about? What's your essence of your book? And write to that, what your reader needs. But if you go on a spiel and something's coming purging out of you, don't block it, let it come out, whether it's even to be deleted or whatever. The release in itself is actually really good for your body physically. It's actually a biological thing as well. So writing is one of the most therapeutic things you can do in your lifetime. And I speak from experience on that, because my first book was dealt with, I had a double miscarriage in between my boys and girls. And I never knew why. And I got the answer through an epiphany one time while watching The View. And I was like, I have to share this message with the world. And 2 days later, I was writing a novel. So you got to allow things to happen, Like, it's totally irrational for me to say, yes, I'm going to write a novel. I said to my husband at the time, I says, sorry, dear, you don't have a wife for a month. I will be a mother to our children, but this is what I'm doing. I'm setting the intention for this month. And he was like, okay, go for it. And I did it. And because I don't think of 50,000 words, think of 1,667 words a day. That's manageable,
Yeah,
step by step.
such a great tip, because there's so many gold nuggets in what you've just shared, Karen, because that's it. I've had a range of experiences. One of them is perfect doesn't work with writing. So once I've been through those times, if I've got to write this perfect little chapter or whatever, and when you get stuck in the perfect or what you think is required of you, you just get all these blocks. So I've had all those blocks, and it's really frustrating. And then I've had that other concept, which I've just done, and Kez had a giggle at me. She was like, Annie, you've got, because I gave her another book I had, and she said, that's great, but it's about a third of a book. You need at least 40,000 words so we can start working with it. So I was so focused on the 40,000 words that, she had a giggle. She said, it's really good, but you've missed like some key areas, because I was so focused on the word thing. But and then that therapeutic release when you actually just go on a rant. And then I said, look, I've got this bit and this bit, but I don't know where they fit in. But then that's actually the gold nuggets often, because they're the bits and that's what I've just been learning, that you go, oh yeah, like I just wrote this happened, but I've got no idea, because we don't understand when you're first starting out the structure or how to weave things in, but they're often like the essential bits, because if you've put them as don't try and slot that in somewhere, it means it's really important to you, right?
Gold.
Absolute gold. So I just, I'm on such a journey with it. I have so much respect for, you being able to just start at that 1,000 words a day and realizing that it really is achievable if you can do it with 6 kids. So I've done it around 5 kids. I know that it's about breaking it down and going on that journey. And you will write lots of rubbish, right? I'm sure even you would identify. They go, yep, put out stuff, and then you cull it, then you find.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what editors are for. I love editors. I think they're the best people in the world. They help me show up and share my work, and I can stand confident in that. But they could not write what I write, but they can make it shine. And the thing is that we're authors do overthink, and you do go into the perfectionism, and if you're in there, you're going to get stuck there. You've got to allow it to come through, and it may not make sense now, but if you just allow the words to flow, just allow it. Don't think where you just let it flow out. And then wait till you see your end project. You go, wow, did I write that? Where did that come from? And it's just a really, like, I do it now a lot, because like these two books behind me or this way are part of a 7-book series of the life principles I live by, and my KP Weaver, which is my author world, has merged now with Karen McDermott, the entrepreneur, because the power of knowing, for instance, which is that gold one, if you know how to know, you can make decisions with unwavering confidence, and in faith of where you're going. So you don't waste time or energy in spaces where you don't feel aligned. So you feel totally in flow and aligned. That's how I achieve, how much, I've achieved so much in my I'm 44 now, so we've got a 10-year gap, Annie, but that's how I've achieved so much, is because I channel everything, and we all have the ability to know. We just lose it along the way, and so many people lean outside for the answers, when the actual way to do it is lean inside for the answers, because we have all of the answers within, but lean outside for the support to make it happen. Some people may not want to know all the facets of publishing, but they have the aspiration to publish a book or to write a book, but they may not want to store all. I know, and if there's something like, for example, if there's plumbing or something to be done in my house, I do not want to learn about plumbing. That is just not it doesn't have any interest to me. I want to reserve my brain for things that bring me joy and get me excited. So I will hand that over to the experts. There you go. And I will be really grateful to them for doing it. And then I can move on. So you're not taking up all that time, because time is precious, and time is energy, and time is money. Whenever you put that, like 1 hour of your life trying to learn something that you may just be hitting a challenge with, but if it's an intention and something you really want to learn, then yes, it's worth it, because those challenges are they're like training sessions where you learn something new and you evolve through it and grow and whatever. But if you're learning something that's not going to serve you in the future, you're wasting time there. So that's the way that I always just hang out in that energy.
I think that's a total gem. Absolutely. Time is everything. And that's it. If it's something that you are interested in, like you then were interested in publishing, it doesn't even feel like a waste of time. That's the difference. When I have those moments that you just go, whether it's learning some tech thing of how to do something on your website or how to publish whatever, if it doesn't just bring you joy, if it just makes it feel like it's frustrating, you feel like you're wasting time, it's zapping your energy, then it's not your thing, right? It's not that complicated. Whereas if you go, wow, this is so interesting, and then you just get lost in learning about it for a few hours, it's probably something that you actually do want to keep doing, because it might end up, as your experience in this world has saved you money. In fact, it's now made you lots of money because it became your niche. So I totally agree with that. Leaning into your essence and bringing that out, and then realizing you don't have to be an expert at everything. There's all this support community around available to help, and that is their niche, and it should be fully embraced. And that's why I love this global community that we've got of all these women just doing different, it's like different cogs in the wheel, and it's like, yes, if we all collaborate in these little bits and pieces, you end up getting this amazing product. I would love to ask you a question about, when I introduce you, you have, like 2 different, Serenity Press and MMH Press, different academies. Why have you started different publishing companies? Was that necessary? Do people go to a publisher for a specific niche as opposed to a one size fit? How does that all work?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is all part of my KMD group. So I'm the person that navigates these, but Serenity Press was where we started out with. And it was my intention. I said, I'm going to build $1 million publishing press. I thought it would take me 25 years. It took me 7, which is amazing. And again, that was all a process. But Serenity Press is a traditional publishing press. So it's where we hand out contracts and we go, so we've got a really good network there. So we've got distributors, we've got global presence. It's where we have our niches there are children's books, and fairy tale retellings, and that kind of happened itself. So we've got the Duchess of York in there. She's one of my authors. We have a 22 book deal with her, and it's really exciting. We're launching DSP, which is the Duchess Serenity Press, next year. You're one of the first people to hear that, Annie. So it's a division, just solely for these books.
This is very exciting news.
An exclusive.
Wow.
And then yes, the fairy tale retellings are, I absolutely adore them. They are like coming of age for young girls and boys now, because Kate Forsyth wrote a boys collection as well called The Gardener's Son, which is releasing in March. And these books are treasures. There were old fairy tales with all the wisdoms and everything in them, are brought are retold in modern days. We teamed up with Lorena Carrington and Kathleen Jennings and all of these for our fairy tale collection, and we have got a beautiful library of books now there that in 2022 are also going to be taken off, because we worked so hard on our libraries, and now we have built out our distribution so that everything kicks in 2022, which is so exciting. So yeah, that's Serenity Press. But because Serenity Press became a traditional press, and for these niches, I needed somewhere for actually me and my books, these books, which are metaphysical, philosophical books. Also for my other fictional my fictional novelists like Kez and like Michelle, and for poetry as well as another niche at MMH Press. And so MMH Press is very much all that we call, it's our Making Magic Happen press. And it's a hybrid press. So it's where we have all the benefits of a traditional press, because we have all of our distribution and everything. It's not just, the online platform, it's actual physical stores and things. But people also come into the community. I join them on the journey. And then it's a hybrid where people pay to be part of it. So we kind of go in the partnership deal. So, and then as we grow, our authors benefit as we grow. So KMD Books is for our thought leaders, business owners, and so it's all non-fiction in there. And KMD Books has really soared and thrived over COVID. A lot of people are writing their stories and publishing their stories because a lot of people are reading non-fiction and, absorbing it, and really increasing their knowledge in different areas. And KMD Books authors are epic. They're really epic, It's amazing. Like, I read these books and I go, wow. We have so many amazing authors. So we've went through a huge growth again this year, and we're actually doing a new website and everything now because we're just growing so fast. But it's so wonderful. It's exciting, when you do grow, rather than, and like, we've had to take on team members rather than let people go over COVID. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it is so exciting to hear
Mm.
growth and to see how you've just, you've leaned into a situation, and that's what it's all about, COVID, which is a time to stall so many people. But for you in this area of business, what has it made people to do? Read more, suddenly start writing that book that they had in their heart, reaching out to get help to actually know how does the whole process work. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you've actually thrived. And I just love that for those definitely in my women's business incubators, one of our Dominate Business Incubator is exactly learning about what you're doing, about how to increase your personal brand, how to really lean into that genius zone and to capitalize. I'd love you to share more about then how have you done that? So I know you've become a TEDx speaker and you write for Forbes and Brains. And so how have you navigated that journey to be a real influencer in your space? Because I know so many people listening in, it's like, how does that actually happen? And is it, I know for you, it's going to be extremely intentional about positioning yourself to be able to have these opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be absolutely honest. I just show up with loving intentions to help people, and Facebook was where my brand kind of grew and flourished. And then hiring a castle gets a lot of and you've got that and things like that. But it's because I prioritize joy a lot. I think whenever I work with people, I want the journey to be enjoyable. If there's any roadblocks, we work through them together. But ultimately, we want it to be a positive experience, and that's very important for me to do that. So yeah, I set big intentions for myself personally, for my own authorship. I freed up a bit of time for the magic because if someone joins me with their authorship journey, and I never have to advertise. I'm always getting referred. People come, I show up and for those people who are aligned and that. But one of the things I want to share as well, Annie, is a lot of people who come to me, especially through KMD Books, have audiences of their own to serve. And everyone always says, can I bring my authors to you to, my audience who want to, and I says, well, why don't you set up your own imprint? And there's so many imprints of publishing press, and people say to me, is that not like training your competition? And I'm like, no, there's more people sharing stories with the world. The more connection there is, the better the world's going to be. I am one person. I do have an amazing team, but the more of us that's doing it, and the leaders in those spaces are the ones to lead those books. So I work from behind with those, and we service them and we do all of the production and stuff. But it's the leaders who help their people through the journey, and I'm just there as backup when needed. And that's makes my heart sing as well, to be able to support that and to support more books to get into the world. Like, is that not the biggest thing? We're here to share our knowledge, not to learn something and keep it to ourselves. Like, one of my superpowers is to find the most efficient way to do things. and connections. I treasure connections. I treasure the people who are in my circle. I just treasure them because, if we've built up a rapport and a relationship, it's because I adore you, and I'm going to help you in any way that I can to, to grow and develop or whatever, because that's what we're all here for. And I have had so many people do that for me, without any expectation of return. But I think whenever you have a beautiful circle around you, growth is inevitable, and the state of flow and joy, like that's it.
No, you just love your day, right? I think you just explained, the collaboration over competition model so clearly. But that's right. There is enough work. There is enough business going around. You're also going to be a different flavor for different people. People are attracted to different types of personalities, types of brands. It's giving yourself a disservice. And I know I sort of spent about 20 years in my career growth when people used to be guarded, or they'd only give you enough information that you were always a bit confused or a bit sort of puzzled, whereas now it's like, yeah, this is actually how things work. You can do it yourself or you can outsource, but it's not, everyone has the opportunity to really step into their own space. And if it's for the right intent, they will do well, right?
Absolutely. Everyone does well. And then ultimately, like the author journey, for example, never mind the publisher journey, the author journey in itself always comes first, because then the publisher then will understand the author's journey and have empathy and know but every author, and that's why I don't offload or print off lots of PDFs for my authors, because every author journey is different and every author has different questions. But I always have the answer, and I go, oh, I see what's going on here. You've got a bit of a block here. So let's work through this. And here is the answers that you need. So process that, come back to me if you have any more questions. So it's life, it's the same with any process that you go through. It's a cycle. You'll come round and then you'll grow into another cycle. And that's just the way it is. And yeah, ups and downs.
Keep evolving. You mentioned a few times actually how important it is to get your stories out. You're a big advocate for it. If you have something in your heart, share it with the world. Other people will say, aren't there a zillion books out there already? Do we need another book on whatever, XYZ? What's your response to that?
You didn't write that book. That's it. Every single author has a different perspective to share, and there's no two books the same. It's like fingerprints. They're all different and they will resonate. And one of the things I always say to my authors now is, put yourself in your books. It's not a textbook you're writing unless it's a textbook you're writing. If you are writing, especially for nonfiction, but even for fiction or whatever, share your personal scenarios so that your reader can connect with you. And if you're writing for your audience, or for someone write to that one person and write what they need to hear as if you're chatting to them. It's just so important just to embrace that and allow it to happen. Don't overthink it, just get it out, and you are the only person that can write your book. even for ghostwrite, I have a lot of people come to me and say, I need a ghostwriter. And I go, okay, yeah, I hear you. But how about you try this? And you work on your framework and send it back to me, and I look at it and I'll see where. But you are the one who's most connected with the essence of your book. So you are the one to deliver the content. You're going to have to deliver content to your ghostwriter anyway. So how about you give it a go, even if you audio each chapter for 15 minutes, um, and then it gets a huge structural edit rather than somebody writing it for you. Then you feel more ownership of your book because the structural edit is your words
Yeah.
just made shine, and you will feel more connected to your book, because ultimately when your book is going out into the world, you're the one that needs to be behind it. And if so, so I always say that. I think ghostwriters are amazing and wonderful in what they do, but I think that when there's more of the author in the book, the author will have more ownership of it.
Yeah, because life's relationships, right? And you want your reader to have a relationship with you. If you've had that experience in that journey, whether it is, me writing my twins book for parents who are now pregnant with twins or having twins, or if it's how to be, successful in a niche, or whatever that book is, you're actually writing it to reveal the essence for you therapeutically, to actually get your story out and have it heard. But you're wanting to touch that reader who needs to hear that story at that time, and then not just content, but actually feel like you're with them on that journey, and you're passing over your tips and your learnings and your experiences, some of which they may have and some may be even different, and that's all okay. I totally love that. And that's exactly the same sort of feedback, even for, in books, but also in business, in websites and personal brand, that a lot of people go, well, they'll ask me, even as a coach, well, what do you think is missing? And I go, you're missing, your content or what you're offering is amazing, but the essence of you, which is the spark, right? It is, they're not looking for vanilla. Generally, people are actually looking for, your uniqueness, your authenticity, however that's going to present. And it does feel bold, to actually then put yourself out there, because all of those little, insecurities will suddenly come to the forefront. What if people criticize me? What if they don't like it? What if this? What if that? And you go, once you rise above that, you go, who cares? Whatever, that's their problem.
Yeah.
Be like Karen, just go, well, I'm so busy doing and just being, I don't have time for worrying about that, because it's just exhausting being in that other phase.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're getting negative feedback from people, it's generally because they're not your people. That's as simple as that. And so you're never going to appease that. So save your energy, because it's precious for your people who you can serve and who you can pour into, because there's no point pouring into a cup that has the bottom out of it. And that is what, people who don't connect with you are. You could pour into them for affinity and you'd never get anywhere. So pour into the people who will use that fuel for goodness in the world, because that's what we need. And we also need to pour into ourselves. I'm very much about keeping myself at a higher vibration, because I had a dark period in my life. I learned a lot about why that happened to me, was because my cup was absolutely empty. I had nothing left to give. So I fell lower than I could have ever fallen. But now I consciously prioritize joy. I consciously and mindfully every day choose, and it is a choice, because you can't have a positive and a negative thought at the same time. It's actual science. So I choose positive, and it takes as much effort to live a positive life as it does a negative one. So and it becomes a habit. If you choose it, then it becomes a habit. And I have my days that are just like blah, and I just go, okay, I'm closing over the diary today. I'm going to the beach, or I'm just going to watch a bit of Netflix. I'm just going to let today pass by. And tomorrow's a bright new day. And then I'm re-energized, and all of that. And coming to the end of 2021, a lot of us have poured a lot into this year. I know I have, and I'm ready for my break. And as much as I will still be doing things because I love what I do, but I won't be doing so much that, my rhythm, I have a rhythm, and I've done it for 5 years, and it is, I work in the school with the school holidays, because I have 6 kids. They're from 6 to 25, but I go in the rhythm. And so every term, it comes to the 2-week break. I hang out with them, do kid things. I still do my writing through there, but I declutter because I would have gone so fast over those last 9 weeks during the day. And so I've got things hanging on that don't serve me into the next phase. So I declutter and allow those things to go to the people who need them. So you know what I mean? So I don't hang on to things. I just constantly move and grow and move forward with it because I am moving forward. And anyone who's coming on, everyone can come on the journey, no problem. But you know, that's it. They have to be there ready and receptive to embrace the energy and enthusiasm of that kind of forward thinking growth. You know, it's exciting when you allow it to be.
Oh, super exciting. And I totally hear that. You do have to have those times of intentional stop, pause. It doesn't have to be a total stop, but it's just a reassess, a reboot, reprioritize because any of us, if you look around your homes, you'll suddenly just get junk and things you just attract stuff, whether it's paper or to-do lists or things like that. And it actually makes you sort of then go, yeah, okay, well, if I'm going to put it away, do I actually put it in my main schedule? Do I outsource it? Do I actually just chuck it? Otherwise, we just carry and carry and carry. And that actually adds to that sense of burden and overwhelm that, and it prevents us from staying in that zone that you're trying to be in. I'd love to ask a personal question about books. What's your feel on, should we still stay with the actual, physical book, ebooks, audio books? Everyone tells me audio books are sort of the flavor. What's your view on that as a publisher? I still love just papers.
I'm a paper book person, but I do appreciate audiobooks. We started doing audiobooks, but ebooks are I don't do ebooks personally because I'm on screen a lot.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm reading, I like to get the book, snuggle up with a cup of whatever and just read. And when you're reading a physical book, you can't get distracted. You are in that book. Someone's reading your words or you're reading someone's words and you are there consciously with them in those pages. Whereas an audiobook, whenever I'm doing an audiobook, I'm driving somewhere or I'm running somewhere or multitasking, doing something. So as much as I'm enjoying it, I'm not totally conscious there. But reading a physical book, that's when I feel more connected to the words in it.
Yeah. Fair enough. And that's a personal choice, right? And some people will go, well, I just never get that time. And if you're at that stage of life that you're sitting there, yeah, that's right, feeding babies, doing things, furring children, then if you're listening in the car and you're getting those little bite-sized chunks, absolutely. It's certainly
go for it.
Go for it. That's where I listen to a lot of my podcasts and other things. But I also agree, that's right, you're multitasking, you don't have that 100% presence. And the same as on I'll actually like a little bit more. I didn't think I'd get into ebooks, but definitely on, on a Kindle, if I'm in the bathtub or something like that, I'll sort of go, yeah, it surprises me that I actually can do it. But when I'm having those moments of, particularly when I'm on holidays and I just devour books and I'm
sitting, it's a treat, isn't it? It's a treat moment.
And I'm just like, I've got the actual physical book, and I must admit, I just totally love that. So you've met so many successful people in your journey. What does success mean to you? And what do you notice about how it sort of presents itself in different people in your world?
Well, I have my own definition of success, and I encourage everybody to have their own definition of success because success is, what you want it to be, what you want to achieve. And for me, success is having a blend of what I enjoy in life, which is being there present as a mum and for my kids is a very big priority. It's why I ended up starting up my own business because I could have went and worked for a corporate or I could have went and worked for, in another publishing house, but I wanted to be able to drop my kids to school, pick them up. That was my choice. I want to, if they're sick, if they're on holidays, so I built up my team so that can accommodate that, like 6 weeks, we're just about to open up a bookstore and an office and my kids are going on 6 weeks holidays, but we'll work around that. I won't be putting them into childcare. But that's just my own personal choice. So success for me is being able to navigate life my way. And, like I live in Perth. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a bit hot at the minute, but, and I really am able to see the joy and the positivities in every day. And for me, like my heart sings. And that is success, and And yes, I do make a lot of money now, but I didn't at the beginning. You know, I was robbing Peter to pay Paul at the beginning to make things happen. But I was very strategic with where I invested. And I was, you know, very smart and savvy and see where I got to. When I started my business, I had $50 a week to invest in it. And I've grown it into what it is now. So, and I don't like to compromise my values. So that is success for me. I don't compromise my values. And yet I still have, like, if I was to write my memoir, it would be really fascinating. I can't wait to read it myself when I stop and pull it all together. And I do hang out with amazing people. I'm really, really very, very lucky. And but it feels so natural. It's amazing what becomes natural and the next natural step. But that's part of the evolutionary process, you know. You know, I never thought I would be hanging out with the people I hang out with, and having the conversations and just jumping on Zoom with some of the people I jump on Zoom with. It's just because it's the next natural step of my journey. So I just show up and, like, I'm talking to you now and talking to your audience, but I'd be talking the same to people of any status. You know, everybody is still human, and so that's
Right.
what they're going to get the same me. I am, because I don't change just for anybody.
Oh, I love you so much. I love everything you stand for, and I most importantly, I love your you know, your belief in yourself, in your natural essence, and how you've developed that. And I can see why. I remember you saying your motto is that where there is a will, there is always a way, and that's it. You've willed this in. You've gone and said, well, I love this. I want this to happen, and I'm just going to run with it. And I'm going to do that around my 6 kids, and we've all got complicated lives and schedules, and things happen. But it's about saying, okay, well, developing what that essence of success is, that success and the balance and the happiness and the joy. What does that actually look like for you, for me, to the listeners? And then go, okay, well, depending on who I am evolving in as a human being, what does that actually look like? And then what things are possible? And then, you know, definitely then you create those opportunities that when you're positioned there and other things come into your space, you can easily seize them. You can easily make them happen, you know. And that's what I love. I love that make magic happen sort of feeling, that it feels like magic, but it's not really, because, you know, you have positioned yourself. You've worked very hard to position. There's a lot of intent. There's a lot of laws of attraction sort of happening there. But you've clearly demonstrated that, yeah, that's right. You can make magic happen. And
It feels like magic, Annie. That's the thing. This has this glowing feeling. There's so many people never get there in their lifetimes to feel that essence. Like, I know there's times where I just stand in my patio and, like, my garden needs a cut. There's messes. I've got loads of kids, but I stand there and I go, oh my God, I just love my life. I am so lucky. And that feeling is like, that's success there, you know, to be able to feel that is beautiful. It just is. Can I share with you my 7 life principles, Annie, that I live through?
yes.
So they are mindfulness, knowing, intent, love, gratitude, forgiveness, and belief. And those are my 7 life principles that I think are core principles to be really aligned with yourself and aligned with what you want to get out of life, you know, because so many of us allow others to control that in our lives, whereas we're the ones who do that. And when you start to live through those types of principles, it just it wills an amazing future and aligns it, and you can never really go wrong, because there's once you prioritize those true joy. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. 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 Magic happens, right? On a
Yeah.
daily basis, because you're setting the intent. You've got your values, you've got your principles. You're actually in the driver's seat. You know what you allow, you know where you're going, you know what you allow to interrupt your journey or not, or what you actually just say, I have no time for. I totally love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Cruise control is beautiful.
Control is the key. Yes. And it all does start with mindset, doesn't it? You know, having that, you know, that growth mindset, that opportunistic mindset, the mindset that believes, you know, that magic is possible if you spend your time and energy nurturing the essence of, you know, who you were born to be. Right. And then, and making choices of what to say no to. And there's a lot of choices. And I'm imagining you have said no to so many things in your journey, because while you're attracting these good things, you're also attracting other people wanting opportunities with you or from you, and there is a real art on saying no, and I'm sure
I
you're
had to learn that. I'm a yes person. And can I share with you my philosophy on no? And this is how I say no with love, is because if something's not aligned with where I'm going and I have to step off my path to do it, there's no point in me saying yes to it, because I would be doing it with, and my heart wouldn't be in it. So I always say, no, I'm sorry, that's not for me right now, because somebody else's heart will be in it, and let them pick it up. If you say yes to something that your heart's not in, you're doing a disservice to that person or to that event or to that whatever it is, because you're not going to give it your all. And my heart has to be in something to get the best out of it, and for me to show up as the best me. So that is why, like I said yes to coming on here today, because this is totally, how I flow. I love to have conversations and to share stories. And if me popping on here ignites something within someone today, that they take action, and that has a ripple effect, not just for them, but in their homes, in their communities, and that ripples out. And the more of us that are doing that, well, then the world's going to be a better place.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on my program. I can't believe how quickly an hour has gone. We can chat all day. I will definitely be contemplating lots of the words of wisdom, the little gems that you've been sharing today in my own little walk as a budding, growing author. It's really fascinating. And I know a lot of people listening in around the world, if you've got that book in you and you haven't actually sort of ignited the flame, you've been holding back for a certain reason, because, one, is it time? Is it feeling of not being good enough? Is it, just the scariness of what if I do it and it actually is successful? What will I do then? What will that look? How would my life change? What am I doing it for? There's so many things behind all of these sorts of blocks, but I encourage you to do so. If you're an author and you're looking for an amazing publisher, definitely reach out to Karen. How will they find you, Karen? Give us a website.
I'm pretty active on Messenger and LinkedIn, so just PM me in that inbox is the best way. Otherwise, you'll get lost in the web.
Karen McDermott, I will be putting all of your contact details on my LinkedIn platform, on my YouTube channel, on my podcast channel. Definitely reach out if what Karen has shared with you today aligns to where you're at the moment. And she's just an awesome chick. So connect with her anyway, because she's just a love bomb, just giving out to the world. And I totally am aligned with that all the way. Thank you for giving us such clarity around what collaboration means, what collaboration over competition means, and how to believe in yourself and follow your essence. You're just an absolute star. So thanks for being on my program today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Annie.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes, and of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.